Hey everyone, welcome Bootsy Rolls, Cocoa Puffs. I'm Boots.
And I'm Coco.
Welcome to Cocoism, the podcast. I'm so excited to introduce our very special guest, an amazing woman. She's a scientist, businesswoman, advocate.
Erica.
Mayor-elect Deuso. Welcome.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for being here.
Yeah,
What,
this is such a fun day. We have turkey defrosting. I have a bread pudding in the oven. It's just a great day. The house smells amazing. So always a great day to give thanks for good things happening.
Yeah, we were just out completing some of our Thanksgiving shopping too. What are your plans?
So I have all of my food ready to go. I'm going over to my parents' house, which is an hour and 45 minutes away, and gonna do some cooking over there for them, and have cousins and nieces, and my husband and I we're just gonna have a good time, and they've been watching my dog for a while, so we get to get my dog back too. So I'm happy.
I love that. I've been dying to ask, how is Mosaic doing today?
Mosey's doing good. Apparently, he's getting into a good rhythm at their house. Going outside and letting them know when it's time by just going up and pawing on the back door. He has a nice big backyard there. Where here in Downingtown, we don't have that big of a backyard. So he's enjoying his vacation.
I loved seeing that on your Instagram, the rescue of Mosaic. And I knew right away that there would be a connection because we're dog lovers as well. And as you know, they're just a part of the family. And it's what, it's really what love's about.
Yeah, it's unconditional.
They're the best. I mean, they're like, we have 3. It's too many things around here. But, they're the best.
I have 3 dogs or 1 dog, 3 cats. So, and the cats are enjoying time of the kitty right now, where they get to just go everywhere and sleep wherever they want. So, they're happy, but they lose that tomorrow.
I can't get over just like how you made me laugh today in our email exchange when we were talking about, your title or your upcoming title, Mayor-elect Erica Deuso. And your response was, it's Erica, Mayor-elect Deuso if you're nasty.
Too many things.
I am a child of the 80s, so listening to Janet Jackson growing up, I remember that line very vividly. So, I had to go with that. I thought you would appreciate it.
When you said that is the line that we say all the time because it's exactly that. Because we're all of these things, right? But in the core, we're too many things.
And January 7th is going to be a big day for you. That's when you will be start your role as mayor of Downingtown, Pennsylvania, in the Chester district. Is that correct?
Chester County.
Chester County.
Yeah, so Downingtown is a small municipality, small borough in the heart of Chester County, Pennsylvania, about 30 miles to the west of Philadelphia. And they actually moved it up for fun. They moved it up to the 5th. So now we have our own full day just to get sworn in, and I'm looking forward to that.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Congratulations. How does it feel?
Oh, gosh. It's been overwhelming. Just the amount of people who've reached out to me. Of course, we have the people here in Downingtown, Chester County, who, I've known forever. But, the people from around Pennsylvania, around the United States, I've gotten people from California, obviously, from Oklahoma, from Nebraska, from Montana, all reaching out to give their congratulations. And then I've had people from around the world, Uganda, people from Uganda, where it's still criminal to be LGBTQ plus outwardly. I have these people reaching out saying congratulations and you give us hope. So providing hope to people who either don't see any or who right now it's just tough to imagine, that means a lot to me. So it's been a whirlwind since the 4th, just with interviews, with podcasts, with articles coming out, and then dealing with not only the well-wishers coming in, like 90% of everybody has been a well-wisher, but also that 10% of people who haven't been as nice. That's been one thing I've been dealing with as well.
I could see that, and that's unfortunate, right? To hear that. But how do you get through those moments, or what do you look forward to, or how do you rise up from a negative, reaction to who you are and you in politics?
The way I see it is this. I personally know of many trans kids, other trans adults in Chester County, in Pennsylvania, and around the country. And if for 30 seconds or a minute or 5 minutes or 10 minutes, I can take that attention away from those other people who are just trying to survive, then I'm happy to do it. Because, I've been out for 16 years, been through transition, everything. I've heard everything. I've dealt with everything. I've seen the discrimination. I've seen the hate, and nothing's new to me anymore. So all these people who think that they're being clever and they're thinking they ate with a comment or something like that, it's like, I've seen that. That's old. But if I can take that away from a kid who's probably never seen that kind of hate, or someone who's just coming out and is just dealing with all this stuff, if I can take the attention off from them for a couple of minutes, I feel like it's all worth it.
That's such an amazing thing to say, because it's very difficult, right? Especially now and in the climate that we're in. One of my questions I wanted to ask you is, what would be one thing that you would say to a young trans person that wants to be in politics but is scared of what that may look like for them? What would you say to that?
Well, I think back to Stonewall, our Trancestors. So you have, people like Sylvia Rivera, who was at Stonewall, who was throwing that first brick. They've put everything on the line. They put their well-being, their lives, their livelihood on the line for their rights. You come forward a little bit, you look at, people like Harvey Milk, you look at people like, things that's what's happening at the HRC and groups like that who've come out through the 90s and trying to get people rights. And, what I'm dealing with now is just standing on the shoulders of those people who came before me, looking at people, like, Zoe Zephyr out in Montana, trans women like Danica Rome or Leah Finke up in Minnesota, my neighbor to the south, Sarah McBride, they came before me. So, I feel like, if I can break a barrier here in Pennsylvania, if somebody else wants to run for office, hey, stand on my shoulders, learn from me, ask me questions, learn from the people who've gone there before, because, what I did may work for you, may not work for you. We've seen many different kinds of trans politicians throughout this country. And everybody did everything a little bit differently. So you have to find what works for you. So, where somebody might not even talk about their gender identity, some people are a lot more open about it. It all depends on who you are and what you want to do. So, learn from us, ask us questions. I've gotten a few people who are trans who've said, if you can win in Downingtown, Pennsylvania, I'm going to try to win in North Carolina. I'm going to try to win in Michigan. I'm going to try to win in Colorado. We have some trans people running next year. Brianna Titone out in Colorado. She's running to be the first statewide elected trans person in Colorado history. So that's a big thing, and I think that's gonna be a race to watch next year. And I think just people need to be hopeful. Not everybody is going to be negative. What I've seen is, overwhelmingly, and the election results prove it. People just don't care that much. They care more about they care about kitchen table issues. They care about putting food on the table, keeping a roof over your head. And people are worried about the wrong 1% at this point. They're worried about, Republicans are worried about trans people, while everyday people are worried about the things that are going to keep their families together. And that's one thing that everybody needs to worry about, is just, hey, focus on the things, and things will turn out well for you.
I love that, Erica. And it's so amazing to sit here with you and to hear your voice. I have to say, once we saw, your election and the results, and just to see kind of like a dryness in politics and something where it's not very uplifting of late. And to see, an Erica Deuso, a Mamdani, really like kind of give us some inspiration to really like wake things up. It's incredible. And from here in California, we're cheering you on. Your community is so widespread and the support is there. I want to ask you, as you head into office, how do you see the community of Downingtown coming together under your leadership?
Well, Downingtown is known as a good neighbor community. It's a community where everybody's willing to open their doors, to help everybody else out. We saw no better example than in 2021 when Hurricane Ida hit Downingtown. Our river that typically sits about 3 feet deep went up to 19 and a half feet deep. Flooded out the entire center of town. People lost houses. People lost everything. And, while FEMA took their sweet time coming into Downingtown to clean everything up, we had people bringing their trucks into town, dropping off dumpsters, neighbors coming over, helping everybody else clean out their basements, clean out their houses, making sure they could salvage what they could. That's the thing that binds us all together, is this good neighbor mentality. And I think no matter who somebody voted for, I want to be the kind of mayor who's going to keep that good neighbor spirit alive. I don't care what letter you have after your name. If you're facing a difficulty, maybe a fire or a lost animal, or, even just, hey, I lost my job, I need some food, I'm not going to judge you based on who you voted for. I'm going to judge you based on the fact that you're my neighbor and you're asking for help. And that's what really needs to bind us together, not just in Downingtown, but I think, in Chester County, in Pennsylvania, around the country. We need to stop looking at each other as opponents and start looking at each other as neighbors. We all need to be there to help each other out.
I literally, that is something that I feel like it keeps coming up. Knowing your neighbors, having your community, knowing who's around you. I feel like we live in such a culture that is so small, right? Everyone kind of sticks to what their focus, but the people around us, our community, our neighbors are so important. And so to hear you say that is the focus, that is amazing. And yeah, makes me so happy to hear you say that.
Yeah. It doesn't just stop at our neighbors here in town. It's, we have to be good neighbors to everybody. Think about it. We have a neighbor to our north in Canada who's getting thrown around right now with tariffs and whatnot. We have a neighbor to our south who, are worried about its people here in the United States. We need to be better global neighbors too. And I think it means, just respecting everybody, and making sure that everybody feels welcome and safe. We don't want anybody here in Downingtown or around anywhere to feel like they're not safe and we're there. And that's what makes, the immigration enforcement so difficult for me to watch. It's hinging on people's safety. And that's not just their physical safety, but their mental health as well. I'm a big advocate for mental health. And I can't imagine the mental health of the people going through this right now. It's going to be difficult, if not near impossible, to be dealing with this and keep good mental health. So, that's one thing I worry about.
Right. I mean, it's so crucial, and in this time of politics and what's going on in the United States, there's a lot of despair, and we really have to deal with that. I wanted to know, as a trans woman in politics, how can we in the LGBTQ plus A community navigate the undercurrent of our civil and human rights being attacked by the current administration?
Wow, that is a great question. If we go back to community, I'll give you an example. So, we had one neighbor around here who, they just moved into the area. Their neighbor is massively homophobic. They moved into this house not knowing who their neighbor was. They moved in, and this person automatically just jumped to the worst of suggestions, worst of ideas. And the whole point of the way that they went through this is to show everybody that they're no one different than anybody else. That they are, they're a great couple. They grow dahlias in their backyard, beautiful, beautiful flowers. So, what they did was they opened up their doors. And when they had their first harvest of dahlias in their backyard, they invited all their neighbors over and had a big flower show for them and raffled off some good bouquets and, showed them, hey, we're not a danger to society. We're not a danger to you. We love each other. It's not like we're coming after you or we're coming after anybody. We're just trying to live our lives. We're trying to enjoy our lives together. And I think that's what we need to be focused on here is that, the LGBTQ community, there is just so much hate out there and there's so much fear over what it is that our community wants to do. And I'm like, you hear about the gay agenda and I'm like, yeah, I have to go cook next and maybe pour myself a glass of wine and have dinner. And then I have a bath tonight and then I'm going to go to bed early. That's what's on my LGBTQ agenda for tonight. I think people need to we need to come at this from a place of love and not take the bait on the fear that they spread. You build so much more when you come at this from love than when you come at it from hate or from fear. So, love your neighbor. If they hate you, love them even more. And, if we can all just base our day-to-day interactions on love, I think that's going to be the best. And trust me, it's not easy. It's not easy when you see the people online saying just the worst things about you, but it's it leading from a place of love always makes you feel better about yourself than the way that you feel when you come at it from hate or from fear or even stooping to somebody else's level of pettiness or of hate or sarcasm or whatever. Lead with love. That makes my heart happy, and I hope that when other people come at it from love, I think that'll make the LGBTQ community happier, and I'll start telling people, hey, we're here to love. We're not here to hate. We're not here to do anything nefarious. We're just here to be your neighbors. Sorry, that got me a little emotional thinking about my neighbors. They're such good guys, and to know what they went through is is a little tough. So
I totally feel you. I'm emotional right now myself, and it's incredible to be able to have this platform, our podcast Cocoism, to connect to you, and and just kind of I don't know, like watching some of your videos and hearing some of your speeches. It's been emotional because it's like, even for me, it's like, how are we so lucky, to have this exchange, and it's so meaningful. But you said, and something that really stands out to me is, when we stand together, we are unstoppable. And you know, again, like, I could fall apart in just the aspect of having hope, like you said, leading with love. And I wish so many more people had that sort of understanding, or took these words with them.
right. And I think, even in the previous presidential administration, I think, President Biden came from this as from a place of love, not just of the people, but of his country, of the people that he had in his cabinet, people in the government, people in his home state. I think he always came from a place of love. Barack Obama definitely came from things from a place of love. Um, and I think we need to get back to that. The current administration comes from things from a place of fear. And, I feel like it's almost a daily occurrence that I feel like we're being gaslit by this administration, trying to tell us that we should be afraid of the things that we know we shouldn't be afraid of, and not focusing on the things that we should be afraid of. We should be afraid of the fact that gas prices and grocery prices and house prices and all these things keep going up, but wages don't keep going up with them. We should be afraid of billionaires getting tax breaks while we're footing the bill for it. Those are the things we should be afraid of, not our neighbors. We shouldn't be afraid of the people who live next door to us or down the street from us, because we're all in this together, and we're all fighting the same fight. Some people are fighting better. Some people have it tougher. But we're all fighting the same fight. And I think we need to get back to that. Start looking inward at who we are together and not what makes us different.
So good.
Cheers to that.
Seriously. And thank you for sharing that story, because that's what matters, like the things that are happening around us, right next to us. And thank you. And thank you for being brave. Because that's like, just thank you,
Well, I appreciate that. When I first came out, I heard a line. Somebody said, you're so brave, to one of my friends. And she said, the line between bravery and stupidity is very, very thin. And it all depends on the outcome, really. I mean, if, there's people who are brave because they climb mountains, but, one small misstep or something like that, and you go from brave to stupid really quickly. And that's what I want to just make sure that people, realize, is that, there's a bravery in taking a step off here. But, that line between bravery and stupidity is very narrow, because you never know what could happen, and I'm not just talking about something negative. I mean, there's always the chance that somebody who's running for office, whether they be LGBTQ or not, they say something truly mind-bogglingly stupid. And there goes their political career. We saw that back in the early 2000s with Howard Dean. I was just reminded while I was in Vermont this past week about how he was so happy to get through his first primary that he did this loud scream noise and basically took himself out of the running for the presidency before it even really started. So we need to, I need to make sure, as the mayor-elect, as I go into being mayor, that I'm doing things that are good for people, and don't put the spotlight on me, but put the spotlight on the people. And that's where it really, really is deserved, because that's why I ran for office. You know, it's the people of this town, the people of this county. They've been like family to me. And when you can do good things for your family, you take advantage of that and you get out and you do it.
Yes, amazing. I love that too. I mean, to be a transgendered woman in politics and to be an inspiration for so many, I did want to ask a question from one of our audience members of Cocoism. It's a good friend of mine, Dwight Davis, and they wanted to know, how do you stay motivated during all this political unrest directed towards the trans community?
You know, I think of the people that I'm working for. You know, I'm not working for myself. I didn't do this for myself. The mayor of Downingtown makes a whopping $2,500 a year. You get a monthly stipend of $183. That's your pay for being mayor. So I certainly didn't do this for the money. I definitely didn't do this for the fame of it. It's a small town mayorship. And, you know, once I take office in January, I'm expecting all this, you know, fame, you know, media darling, you know, ish stuff that I'm dealing with now. I expect that to go away, and I actually have to do the job. But I did this for the people. You know, if you focus on the people that you're doing this for, you're focusing on the right things, you know, everything else just falls away. You know, it's noise. You know, so I'll give you an example. So I have some friends who are active military who are trans. They're being separated from their jobs right now. Terrible, you know, but they have families. So are they sitting there feeling badly for themselves? No, they're out there finding a job, you know, because they have to protect their families. Do I know some people who've been affected by the passport issues with trans people? Yeah, you know, I was worried about that myself. But I was born in Vermont. My birth certificate's been changed, and I talked to the Secretary of State of Vermont, and she said, "Good luck to the U.S. government finding your old birth certificate, because that's been put through a shredder now. You only have one birth certificate, so if they want to revoke your birth certificate, good luck to them." But I've seen some people who have had that happen. You know what they're caring about? Whether they can go visit their family overseas, not whether the letter is on the correct letters on their passport. So worrying about the right things, worrying about things that are important. Yeah, it's an attack on our community, you know, and an attack on one is an attack on everybody. So, you know, we have the LGBTQ NATO here, you know, we have Article 5 here. You know, the entire LGBTQ community has come together to really stand up for a lot of these things. But you just need to focus on the right things, focus on the good things, focus on the important things. And if it's, you know, your family, having food on the table, having a roof over your head, those are the important things. They can do a lot to take down our morale, but that's something we have to give up. You know, if they're going to try to take it away, we have to be willing participants in them taking away our morale. And I think about the you know, the trans kids who came up to me at Pride this year and thanked me and gave me hugs. I think about the trans elders who never thought they'd see something like this happen, not in Chester County, not in Pennsylvania, not in the United States, who are just so happy for this being happening in their backyards. So, you know, that's my trans joy right now, is, you know, all of those people who feel represented. There's 71,000 trans people, give or take, in Pennsylvania. You know, I think I'm the third or fourth elected trans person in the entire state, the first trans mayor, and only the fourth trans mayor ever to be elected in the United States. people are proud, and that's what keeps me happy. But, that's fleeting. I actually have to do the job in a month. And I want to make people more proud when I'm actually in office. And I hope that within, the next 4 years, people forget that I'm trans. I hope that they think of me as the mayor who helped mitigate flooding here, or who helped revitalize our downtown, or who helped regulate traffic here so we don't have bumper-to-bumper traffic in the mornings when people are trying to get to work. That's what I hope I'm remembered for, because that's the kind of mayor I want to be, focusing on the things that really affect everyday people.
I love that.
I do too. Like, what an honor. I mean, I'm so grateful. I can't wait to in person give you a hug. I can't wait to meet you. We're cheering you on. And it's like, I can't wait to just see you keep growing, keep expanding.
We'll be watching. We'll be watching.
That's the problem. Everybody's eyes are on me from now until the future, because you look at the people who came before me, other trans politicians, their lives were under a microscope. Every politician's lives are under a microscope. So I'll be there. And I hope you two keep me accountable. And if I do something wrong, if I do something that upsets the community, I hope you're right there to say, Erica, you messed up, or that isn't right. You need to do something about it. So keep me accountable, please.
I love that, because it's like you said, Erica, Mayor-elect Deuso, it's the work, and that's what we talk about all the time. Like, it's really the work that you're going to do, that you want to do, that you promised your community, and it's time to get to work, and we will do all of that, and from a loving place, and we believe in you. And you got me at the email this morning, and I knew you were going to be too many things.
Yes. Way too many things in the best kind of way.
You two are way too many things as well. And I like to think I'm a Jill of all trades, master of some.
Yes. So let's be
too many things
together. Oh my God. So
thank you, Erica Deuso. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Show begins. Cocoisms, ooh, that's the tea. Boots and cocoa, wild and free. One talks riddles, one walks fierce. Together they slay through every sphere. Cocoism, say it loud, from brunch to mics. Now they're proud. Portes heat, fashion with every cocoism. A perfect fit, and they moved to LA.